Starting off in a neutral position with both feet on the wall, take your hands and grab the side of your pelvis because I want you to get a good sense of where your pelvic position is. Under no circumstance should the pelvis move just for the sake of this exercise. So your pelvis should stay in place. Now let's get your right ankle to the top of your left thigh. This is what happens when a hip can function, flex, and rotate really well. The pelvis stays in place. Let's show what happens if the pelvis moves. So notice how the pelvis has got to change positions just for the hip to rotate. If you feel like that's the case, go a little slower and you can use your hand for help if you want to bring the leg to the thigh. I just want to make sure that your pelvis stays exactly where it should be. I'm going to set the timer, and from here, gently press the right knee towards the wall, and it's just going to be one long active hold as your right hip is externally rotating. Now today we started off with the right leg. The next time you do this, you're going to start off with the left leg. And every other day, you're going to alternate which leg you start off with first. That way we can not always release the right hip and then the left hip releases secondarily. Each hip has its own day that it takes first. You might feel a significant stretch in the right hip if it's tight. You might feel a ton of work if it's weak. You just might feel sensation if the right hip is not really used to just moving by itself with a stable pelvic position. That was a minute, so let's put the right foot back on the wall. Keeping your hands on the pelvis, I want you to see if the left foot does the same thing. So now let's get the left ankle to the top of the right thigh. Ideally, the pelvis is going to stay in place as the knee presses away. But if your pelvis has to move, that's kind of what we're doing here, and that's what we're trying to fix, is the fact that your hip can rotate without you having to continually manipulate your pelvic or lower spine position just to move your hip. So if it's not perfect, that's okay. It will get better over time. Notice the level of difficulty or challenge that you might have with this and observe how it just gets easier and smoother. Maybe the first couple months you had to lift your pelvis entirely off the ground to do this. And now you can get your foot to your thigh without having any shifting of the pelvis. This is just the process of restoring your physiology and re-teaching your hips how to rotate without compensation showing up. And great, that's time. Bring your left foot back to the wall and let's move on to the next exercise.